They say wrestling rings are made to be broken. Well, they don't, that's rules, but those spandex-clad beef boys still occasionally find a way to break the very thing they're supposed to be wrestling in regardless. From simple rope snaps and buckled boards to full-on destruction, we've seen the ring get taken apart in the course of action in various companies throughout the years. Most of the time, it's intentional. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 times wrestlers destroyed the ring. Join us. Number 10, The Giant on Thunder. While the Big Show had a penchant for wrecking WWE rings, which we will delve into soon enough, don't worry, his destructive ways actually began when he was performing as The Giant in WCW. On the January 22nd, 1998 episode of Thunder, The Giant was wrestling Scott Hall in the show's main event when the bad guy's running buddy Kevin Nash ran in and caused the bout to end via DQ. Due to a storyline stipulation that prevented The Giant from laying a hand on Big Sexy, he took out his frustrations in the most mature way possible, by tearing down the ring with Hall still inside of it. Using his mammoth frame to upend the ring posts, The Giant had Hall doing his best sell job, causing him to comically stagger around the dilapidated ring before falling down. In all honesty, it wasn't nearly as cool as it sounds, but it was an interesting way to end the show if nothing else, and it suitably put over Paul White's impressive size. It also gave the ring crew a head start, and I'm nothing if not a man who respects those unsung heroes. Number 9, Big Show and Brock Lesnar on SmackDown. As I just mentioned, The Giant took his ring-breaking ways with him to WWE, and it didn't take him long to start busting boards, as the 500-pounder chokeslammed The Undertaker right through the canvas on the June 7th, 1999 episode of Raw, less than 4 months after his WWE debut. Perhaps the most famous ring-breaking incident in Big Show's career came 4 years later, when he met Brock Lesnar in the main event of the June 12, 2003 edition of SmackDown. Entering uncharted territory, Show began climbing to the top rope when he was cut off by the next big thing and hit with a gargantuan superplex. Not just breathtaking in and of itself, the ring collapse aftermath was perfectly done by WWE's props department, and it remains one of the most surprising and thrilling climaxes to an episode of TV in the company's history. In fact, it was so good that WWE repeated the trick with Show several times. Mark Henry brought him down to earth in their World Heavyweight title match at Vengeance 2011, with John Cena and Alberto Del Rio having to work their match in the wreckage. Braun Strowman also got in on the act on the April 17th, 2017 edition of Raw. Number 8, JBL at No Way Out 2005. One of the hallmarks of JBL's unlikely and long WWE title reign was the loudmouth Texan consistently managing to find new ways of just about weathering the storm and somehow leaving with the belt around his waist. SmackDown General Manager Teddy Long tried to combat this by booking Bradshaw against the Big Show, there's that guy again, in a barbed wire cage match at No Way Out 2005. There was nowhere to run for the champ, as the top of the steel structure was covered in the spiky stuff, leaving him at the mercy of the world's largest athlete. But if there's a will, then there's a way, and the way JBL was going to escape this time was through the ring. In an ingenious finish, Show gave him a top rope chokeslam, the force of the bump causing the former acolyte to make a hole in the ring. Assuming that his opponent was fully incapacitated, Show sauntered out of the cage door, only to then discover that JBL had used the hole to escape from under the ring itself, meaning that he had technically escaped and got to ringside first. A cool spot, yes, but also the perfect way for an opportunistic champion to eke out a win. Number 7, Cactus Jack at No Way Out 2000. 5 years before JBL and Big Show were headlining No Way Out in a steel structure, Triple H and Cactus Jack were doing the same. Inside Hell in a Cell, the Game and Mick Foley's epic rivalry came to a stunning conclusion with Hunter's title on the line against Foley's career. Another 5-star bloodbath in their incredible series, the two men beat each other to a pulp, utilizing the cell as well as a host of nasty weapons. Inevitably, they ended up fighting on top of the damn thing, instantly bringing to mind Foley's iconic cell match with The Undertaker from almost 2 years prior. Mrs. Foley's baby boy didn't get launched off the side of the structure this time, but he did go through it once again. Actually, he did take a bump off the side through the announce table, because of course he bloody did. Countering a pile driver attempt with a back body drop, Triple H sent the hardcore legend hurtling through a panel and down to the ring, which cratered around him. It was a spectacular bump, and thankfully for Foley, a lot safer than the brutal chokeslam he received at the 1998 King of the Ring. Number 6, Bam Bam Bigelow and Taz at Living Dangerously 1998. WWE may have perfected the ring-breaking stunt in matches, but they initially nicked it from, where else, ECW. Yes, the stunt was another of the many things Vince McMahon's promotion borrowed from the Paul Heyman-led outfit during the 90s. At ECW's Living Dangerously 1998 pay-per-view, Taz defended his World Television title against Bam Bam Bigelow. Most of the fighting between the Human Suplex Machine and the Beast from the East took place in the crowd as they brawled around the arena. When they were given the signal, however, they returned to the ring for the grand ending. With a Taz mission locked in, Bigelow threw his body weight backwards, sending both men through the ring. Living dangerously indeed. Bam Bam was genuinely worried that Taz would hurt himself on the spot, so before the show they measured the proper distance needed to ensure nobody would be injured and put a small piece of white tape on the top rope to mark it. It went off exactly as planned, and both men were thrilled with the outcome. Honestly, only in wrestling could somebody be thrilled at being thrown into a hole and having a 400-pound man land immediately on top of them. Number 5, YOKOZUNA at SummerSlam 1996. WWE's narrative would tell you that the second he cut his Austin 316 promo following his triumph in the 1996 King of the Ring, Stone Cold's meteoric rise to the top began in earnest. In reality though, Steve Austin had to bide his time a while longer. For example, he wasn't even booked on the main SummerSlam card 2 months later, having to settle for a pre-show free-for-all bout with YOKOZUNA instead. The Samoan super heavyweight was tipping the scales north of 600 pounds at this point, so it's no surprise that the match was not a long one. Though it only clocked in at 1 minute and 52 seconds, at least the finish was a memorable sight. As he attempted to hit his finisher, Yoko's bulk caused the top turnbuckle to come loose, sending him crashing down to the mat and handing Austin the victory. WWE attempted to do something similar during Roman Reigns' undisputed WWE Universal title defense against Finn Balor at Extreme Rules 2022, but the only thing it succeeded in was making the Demon look like a bit of a muppet. Number 4, The Undertaker and Edge at SummerSlam 2008. After feuding for the best part of a year and having wrestled in a WrestleMania main event as well as a TLC match, the bitter feud between Edge and The Undertaker really needed to end in a way befitting its epic nature. A Hell in a Cell headliner at SummerSlam certainly did the trick, as the Deadman and the Rated R Superstar were given plenty of plunder to play with. The absence of blood, a consequence of the company's recent change to a PG rating, was a shame, but nobody was talking about the lack of claret when the pay-per-view was over. After putting his foe away with a tombstone, Taker wanted to make sure that Edge would never breathe again, let alone wrestle. Taking him for a trip up the ladder, the Deadman sent him through a gimmicked part of the ring with a mighty chokeslam. Then, just to make sure he was really dead, Taker had flames shoot out of the hole that Edge's body had just created. You know, at his command, because he's a magic biker zombie, you see. Number 3, The Nexus on Raw. When the collective members of the Nexus were sent to the ring for their debut following the John Cena vs. CM Punk main event on the June 7th, 2010 episode of Raw, they were only given 2 instructions by Vince McMahon. Number 1, don't punch any member of the audience, which, I mean, yeah. And number 2, don't touch the cameras, because they're HD, they're worth about 100 grand, and frankly, pal, they are more important to WWE than the 8 of you put together. Besides that, the so-called band of rookies were given carte blanche to wreak as much havoc as they wanted. Well, as long as they didn't break untold rule number 3, don't choke out a ring announcer with his own tie. As well as laying waste to everyone within their vicinity, the Nexus also did some damage to the ring, dislodging the middle rope and pulling up the ring canvas and a portion of the ring padding. They also chucked about a bunch of stuff at ringside and generally made quite a mess. How do you expect to make any friends in the locker room making a scene like that, lads? Honestly. Number 2, Cheeks in TNA. There was a lot riding on the debut show for NWA TNA. Their inaugural effort in their weekly pay-per-view format basically had to be a home run if the concept had any chance of succeeding. So, naturally, the ring got knackered before the show went live on air. That's right, in the very first match in a TNA ring, the thing went ahead and broke. The reason for this is the lamentable Cheeks, who was a 450-pound Rikishi ripoff who got winded walking down to the ring, who managed to do something to make it go all dodgy. Whether it was hitting the ropes or turnbuckles with his sizable frame, I'm not entirely sure. It's actually pretty impressive in its own way, since he and his opponent Frank Parker were only out there for little over a minute. The ring breaking caused a bit of a scramble backstage, with segments rearranged in order to give Ron and Don Harris enough time to fix the issue. They managed to just about get it done in time. Even more amazingly, TNA actually aired the disastrous dark match on their second weekly pay-per-view. It was, mercifully, the simultaneous pay-per-view debut and retirement of Cheeks. Number 1, Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2022. Brock Lesnar has long been a law unto himself, his combination of freakish strength and ultra-intimidating aura essentially giving him free reign to do what he wants when he wants to do it. So if the Beast Incarnate decides that he's going to drive a tractor to ringside and then use it in his match, who are you to tell him otherwise? An actual rancher who grew up working on a dairy farm, Lesnar knows his way around agricultural equipment and looked plenty comfortable driving that big red thing down to ringside for his SummerSlam 2022 showdown with undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Not only did Brock start the match off by jumping off the tractor onto the tribal chief, but he later used its front loader to hoist up and drop down Roman before capping it off with his pièce de résistance, lifting the ring up with Reigns still in it. According to reports, Lesnar actually pulled this feat off without any prior rehearsal. Because of course he did, he's Brock Lesnar. Using a tractor to pick up a wrestling ring is just another day at the office for that big, sweaty, scary prairie boy.